Some men walk into a church when they've lost hope. Some walk into bars, looking to forget. But Thomas Levi Roth walked into a police station. At 12:01 a.m., November 1st, 1987. Halloween had ended 1 minute ago. But for him, the nightmare had just begun. The front door creaked open. Cold air slithered in like a breath from something not quite dead. The desk sergeant looked up, expecting a drunk or a prankster. Instead, he saw a barefoot man, in his mid-20s, covered in dirt and ash. His eyes were hollow. His lips were cracked. And in his trembling hands, was a black dress. It was burned at the bottom. Torn near the neck. Wet near the heart. He held it the way a grieving man might hold a lover's body. Gently. As if afraid it might fall apart in his hands, or come alive again. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He sat in the corner of the room, under the buzzing fluorescent light that blinked like a dying pulse. 10 minutes passed before Officer Brent Wilder approached him. "Son, are you all right?" Thomas looked up slowly, like something rising from the bottom of a dark lake. "It's her favorite dress," he whispered. "She wore it the night she vanished." He stared at it again. His voice dropped. "But this isn't the same dress. It's changed. I think it's part of her now. Or, maybe it's part of what's inside her." The officer took a cautious step back. Thomas clutched the dress tighter. His voice grew low. Shaky. "It started 5 years ago. October 31st, 1982. I met her at a Fleetwood Mac concert in Austin. She looked like Stevie Nicks herself, flowing white dress, wolfskin boots, hair black as midnight. But her eyes were green. Not emerald. Not jade. They glowed, like something ancient looked out from behind them. She danced like a spirit. And when she gave me her clove cigarette, I swear, I saw smoke curl into the shape of a skull." He paused, then leaned in close. "She told me her name was Natalie. Said Halloween wasn't a holiday for her, it was sacred. Like a blood oath. We moved in together. Eventually settled here in Scranton. She took a job at the mortuary. I worked at the museum. But she had a collection. Little things. A ribbon from a drowned girl. A wedding ring from a hit and run. An earring found buried with a decomposed corpse. She said they spoke to her." Thomas's hands now gripped the dress like a lifeline. "And then, she found the book. A Romanian grimoire, wrapped in what felt like leather, but smelled like formaldehyde. She got it from a gypsy caravan that rolled into town one foggy afternoon. The girl who gave it to her had eyes just like hers. She called it the Resurrection Diary. And as she translated it, page by page, she changed. Her skin paled. Her voice dropped an octave. And sometimes, when she slept, she whispered names. Names of people who hadn't died yet. You don't believe me? He whispers, almost smiling. Then let me take you back. To the night we met. They say some meetings are fate. But that night, it didn't feel like fate. It felt like a trap. Disguised in lace and clove smoke. October 31st, 1982. Austin, Texas. Fleetwood Mac was playing under violet lights, and the air smelled like spilled beer and cigarette ash. I was just another 21-year-old lost in the crowd, until I saw her. She moved through the people like fog. Wearing a white flowing dress with silver threading. Wolfskin boots. A velvet cape that shimmered in the dark. She danced with her eyes closed, spinning slowly, like she wasn't listening to the music, but something older. And then she bumped into me. Her hands touched mine cold as stone. She smiled. "You dropped this," she said, handing me a clove cigarette I never remembered holding. Her name was Natalie. And her eyes were impossibly green. We talked until the music faded. She asked strange questions, not about what I liked, but what I feared. "Do you believe spirits can follow you? Would you keep something, if it belonged to the dead?" I laughed it off then. I don't laugh anymore. We saw each other every day after that. Within months, we were living together. She painted our bedroom black. Said white walls invited things in. She made me burn all the mirrors. "Reflections steal pieces," she whispered one night. I told myself it was just her style. Just Halloween flair. But deep down, I knew. Something was watching her. Then came the dreams. I'd wake up at 3:03 a.m. every night to the sound of footsteps in the attic. We didn't have an attic. Natalie would already be awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, whispering to something I couldn't see. Once, I caught her drawing symbols in salt on the floor. When I asked, she said they were to keep the dead out. But what if they were meant to bring something in? A week before Halloween the following year, she disappeared. Vanished without a note, without a sound. Police searched for weeks. I searched for longer. Then one night, she came back. She walked through the door like nothing had happened. No apology. No fear. Just a smile. But something was off. Her hair was longer. Her hands were colder. And when she hugged me, I swear I smelled formaldehyde. Later that night, I found a book in her bag. Wrapped in black cloth. Sealed with what looked like human teeth. Its pages were brittle and inked with a language I couldn't recognize. The first thing I saw was a sketch of a woman standing in front of a cracked mirror, her shadow shaped like a horned beast. Underneath, one phrase repeated in blood-red ink. "The soul can be stolen if the mirror is cracked." When I confronted her, she didn't deny anything. She said the book chose her. That her bloodline traced back to the ones who first walked through death. She laughed. "You thought this was love?" she asked. "This is preparation." That night, I heard screams outside our window. Neighbors said it was a fox. But I know what I saw. A pale, hunched creature crawling upside down along the fence. Its face looked like Natalie's, if she had no eyes. That was the first death. The dog next door. Then a little boy 2 streets over. Then, my cousin Ben. They all had one thing in common: they'd spoken to Natalie after she disappeared. Thomas's voice drops to a whisper. She never left. She just moved between shadows. And every Halloween since then, someone dies. He holds up the old book again, its pages now soaked from the rain outside. But the truth doesn't end here. You want to know what was written on the last page of this book? He looks up, expression cold. It was a name. And it wasn't hers. It was mine. There's something wrong with our closet. Something breathing. I didn't notice it at first. Or maybe I didn't want to. It began the night she came back. She dropped a dress on the bed, pale yellow, soaked at the hem. I looked at it, confused. "That's not yours," I said. She smiled, a smile too wide for her face. "It belonged to the girl from Lake Scranton," she said. "The one they pulled from the water last week." She said it like she was proud. I wanted to ask why she had it. But something about her eyes made my voice shrink. She hung it in the closet, next to an old nurse's uniform and a charred wedding veil. That was the first time I noticed it. The closet didn't creak anymore. It sighed. Every time she added something new, it groaned. Like it was eating. Within months, the entire left side was full. Not of her clothes, but theirs. Each item tagged with a name. A date. A cause of death. They were trophies. Offerings. I asked her once if she believed in ghosts. She laughed. "Ghosts are polite," she said. "They knock. What's inside that closet doesn't." Sometimes, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of fabric moving. Like fingers brushing velvet. Once, I heard a zipper. But we hadn't owned anything with a zipper in years. The worst part? It started to smell like her work, embalming fluid in something older. Like old breath trapped in a jar. One day, I found her crying on the floor. She was holding a small, blood-stained sweater. It belonged to a boy who'd gone missing 2 towns over. He was too young, she whispered. They weren't supposed to take him yet. That night, I checked the notebook. There was a new page. Drawn in black ink, shaky like it was done by a trembling hand. It showed a closet. Open wide. And something crawling out, all limbs, no face, covered in stitched fabric. Underneath, one line scrawled over and over again. She opened the wrong door. After that, people in the neighborhood started disappearing. One by one. No blood. No struggle. Just gone. And every time, something new appeared in that closet. A scarf. A baby's bonnet. A ring box sealed shut. She never explained it. She just stared at the closet like it was a mirror, showing her something I couldn't see. One evening, I built up the courage to open it. The second I touched the handle, it was warm. Not like wood. Not like metal. Warm like skin. When I opened it, nothing moved. But everything inside had shifted. The clothes were hanging in perfect alignment. Facing me. As if they'd been expecting someone. The lights flickered. A cold draft blew out of the back of the closet. I swear I heard something whisper in a language I didn't recognize. 3 words. Over and over. Like a chant. Like a countdown. And then I saw it. A journal, wedged between 2 coats. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It had no title, just a lock sealed shut with black wax. I pulled it out, and it screamed. Not in sound, but in air. The entire room gasped, like it had lost its breath for just a moment. I ran my fingers across the wax, and it cracked on its own. Inside were pages written in two kinds of ink: black and red. The black was hers. The red wasn't. Some pages described rituals. Others listed names. But the last one, it had a map. A crude sketch of a building. With 3 rooms. One was labeled, the body. One was labeled, the mirror. And the last, the gateway. I recognized that layout. It was the mortuary. A wind howls through an empty hallway. Some books are written to teach. Some are written to remember. But the worst ones are written to awaken. Natalie first held the grimoire the way someone holds a newborn. Not with fear, but devotion. She said a gypsy gave it to her outside a cafe, a girl with matching green eyes, barely 20, wearing 12 silver rings and a smile like moonlight on a blade. They spoke in whispers. The gypsy asked her one question. "Do you want to see the other side?" Natalie said yes. 15 minutes later, she came home with a book that smelled like wet earth and copper, and something deeper. Like something pulled from a grave too soon. The cover was rough, like leather left out in the sun for centuries. But it wasn't leather. I only touched it once. It was warm. The spine cracked when opened, not like paper. Like cartilage. Inside were drawings, some old, some recent. Figures with elongated limbs. Hollow eyes. Symbols not found in any known alphabet. One page showed a woman giving birth in a pool of black water, and the thing crawling out had too many legs. Another showed a mirror cracked in 7 places with a reflection smiling while the woman in front of it was not. Natalie spent nights translating it. She learned just enough Romanian to understand fragments. And what she found changed her. She began writing in her own notebook. Asterisk, she called it Volume 2. She said the book wasn't finished, it wanted her to continue it. One night, she showed me a passage. They can return if the vessel is cold. The soul must be guided, not forced. I asked her what that meant. She said nothing. She just stared at me, as if measuring my body for something. Soon after, people began vanishing again. But only those who had touched the door. That's what Natalie called it, touching the door. A man who delivered flowers to the mortuary gone. A librarian who helped her translate Romanian found 2 weeks later in a crawlspace with his mouth sewn shut. And always, always, Natalie wrote something new in the notebook afterward. The grimoire grew heavier over time. She said it was absorbing what it needed. But heavier, how? She placed it on a scale once. 5 pounds. Next week, 9. 2 weeks later, 12. Then one night, the scale cracked beneath it. One page in particular haunted me. It showed a human figure with a key embedded in its chest. The caption loosely translated read, "The vessel must be loved. Only love can unlock the gateway to the soul." That's when I realized something terrifying. She wasn't collecting the dead. She was collecting feelings, memories, connections. Every item in the closet, every victim, had loved someone deeply. And Natalie, she wanted to be all of them. I tried burning the grimoire once. I poured gasoline on it, lit the match. But the flame died in my hand. And from the book's pages came a scream. A voice I knew. My mother's. She'd been dead for 10 years. After that, I never touched it again. Natalie said I was weak. The book tests you, she whispered. You passed. The final page she translated showed a diagram. It looked like a floor plan, 3 rooms. Labeled in Old Romanian. Corp. Oglinda. Porta. Body. Mirror. Gate. That's when I realized it wasn't a metaphor. It was real. It was where she worked. The mortuary. And something was waiting there. She said she needed one last thing to complete the ritual. One final vessel. I asked who. Long pause. She kissed me and whispered. You. Some people die once. Others die over and over again. Natalie wasn't afraid of death. She was afraid of staying in one body too long. She said the book had taught her. The soul, she whispered, is like water. It moves. It spreads. It seeps into the cracks when the vessel breaks. I used to think she was just poetic. But that night, she made it clear. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a warning. October 31st. The night everything converged. The house smelled like roses and rot. She had laid out a circle in the living room. White chalk. 6 candles. One at each point of a star. In the center a shallow bowl filled with ashen teeth. I wasn't supposed to see it. But I did. She was humming. A low melody, not a song. More like a language with no words. The black grimoire was open beside her. Pages fluttering as if something was breathing beneath them. On the floor, she had written one name. Mine. I stepped forward. She didn't flinch. It has to be you, she said, not even looking at me. You're the only one who ever loved me the right way. I asked her what she meant. Her voice cracked. The body dies. The memory doesn't. The book says love is the bridge. Asterisk, if you love me, you'll help me cross. She lifted a long, curved blade. Old. Rusted. Ornate with symbols I'd seen before, in nightmares. I backed away. But the room was colder behind me. Like something had already sealed the exits. She began chanting. The lights dimmed. The candles pulsed. I felt pressure in my chest like hands pressing down from the inside. I heard a child laugh behind me. We had no children. In the mirror across the room, I saw it. She wasn't alone. There were others behind her. Faces without skin. Mouths sewn shut. Eyes wide and waiting. They stared at me. And I understood. They were previous vessels. Failed. Forgotten. Consumed. Natalie raised the blade to her own chest. The book says we both must die, for one to pass. I give you my body, she said. You give me your soul. She cut. Blood spilled into the bowl. Her knees hit the ground. I ran to stop her, but my legs felt like lead. The walls began to twist, stretched, the shadows grew teeth. She looked at me one last time. Her green eyes glowing. "Say my name," she whispered. "Or the others will take it." But I couldn't. My mouth was locked shut. And then silence. She collapsed. The candles died. For a moment, nothing. Then the bowl shattered. Smoke poured out thick, dark, and freezing. It crawled up her skin. Entered her eyes. And then, she stood up. But it wasn't Natalie anymore. Her body moved like it remembered how to be human, but only just. Her head tilted too far. Her fingers bent the wrong way. Her mouth smiled like a mask. She looked at me. And said, with a voice deeper than hers, "You shouldn't have loved me." I ran. But as I opened the door, the hallway was gone. Only mirrors remained. Every reflection showed her a different version, a different body. Some young. Some old. Some not even human anymore. But all with the same eyes. Green. Unblinking. Eternal. A final whisper echoes, "Say my name." They say when someone vanishes, they leave something behind. A note. A scent. A sound. But that night, there was nothing. No slam of the door. No rustle of clothes. No goodbye. Because the night Natalie disappeared, no doors were opened. It happened 3 days after the ritual. I hadn't spoken a word since. Couldn't. My voice came out wrong, like I was imitating someone else's breath. She walked like Natalie. Smiled like Natalie. But every now and then, her shadow didn't match her body. Sometimes, it stayed still, when she moved. And sometimes, it moved faster. That night, I woke at 3:03 a.m. Again. Always. The same cold sweat. Same ticking in the walls. I looked beside me, empty. The house was silent. But not empty. I could feel it. The weight of eyes pressed against the windows from inside. I called her name. Nothing. I checked the doors locked. No signs of struggle. The candles from the ritual had relit themselves. Each flame was inverted. Blue, not orange. Cold, not warm. In the hallway, the mirrors had returned. We'd shattered them all months ago. But now, there they were. 6 in total. 1 for each name in the grimoire. Each reflection showed a version of Natalie, twisted, broken, stitched. And in mine, I wasn't there. I reached for the doorknob to leave to run, but my hand passed through it like mist. I tried again. And again. Then I realized, there was no door. The house was sealed not with locks, but with silence. She hadn't left. She had taken the exits with her. I ran back to the bedroom. On the bed lay her necklace, the one she wore during the ritual. Wrapped tightly around a tooth. Not a human tooth. Something larger. Sharper. Blackened at the root. And still wet. The closet door stood open. Inside, empty hangers swinging. All the clothes were gone. But the air was thick with breath. I stepped in not by choice, but by pull. It was larger than before. Deeper. And lined with fabric I couldn't recognize, like skin cured into wallpaper. In the far corner, something was breathing. Shallow. Rhythmic. Waiting. I reached for the light switch. There wasn't one. Only a mirror. And scrawled across the glass, in a language I should not have understood, was one word. Return. Suddenly silence shattered. The closet roared. Not with sound, but with memories. Every scream she'd ever heard. Every name she'd ever written. They all came back like water through a broken dam. Then nothing. Darkness. Stillness. I woke up the next morning, on the kitchen floor. No sign of Natalie. No blood. No broken candles. No symbols. No grimoire. Only the smell of lilies. And silence. I checked every door. Still locked. Still sealed. Neighbors claimed they never saw her return. Security camera in front of the house. Footage frozen at 2:59 a.m. Then resumes at 4 a.m. No Natalie. No me. I asked the police if they'd seen her. They asked if I was still taking my meds. I don't take meds. But here's what no one can explain. Every photo of her we ever took now shows only me. Standing alone. Smiling. Sometimes, even waving. And in one of them, just one, she's behind me. In the reflection of a mirror we never owned. That night, I found her notebook again. I had buried it. But it was waiting on my pillow. And the final page had changed. It no longer said, return. It said, begin. You were always mine. They say the dead can't come back. But they're wrong. The dead do return. The problem is, they never come back as themselves. It was exactly 1 week after Natalie disappeared. I'd stopped checking the door. Stopped sleeping. But that night, I felt it. The cold. Not just air cold. But blood cold. Bone cold. And then, I heard her voice. From the hallway. Soft. Delicate. But, too slow. Like someone trying to remember how to speak. Tom, it's me. I stood frozen in the dark. The light bulb in the hallway buzzed, then flickered to life on its own. She was standing at the end of the hall. But it wasn't her. It looked like an old woman. 90, maybe more. Skin sagging like wet paper. Eyes hollow. Legs trembling beneath the weight of something inside. But her voice was Natalie's. And worse, her eyes were green. Do you remember the concert? She asked. Fleetwood Mac. Austin. 1982. She took a step forward. The floor groaned. I was wearing white. You said I smelled like cloves. I backed away. Shaking. Breath caught in my throat. Because I hadn't told anyone that. Not even the police. Only Natalie knew. She kept walking stiff, stuttering steps. Her arms out like she was sleepwalking. But her face wasn't blank. She was smiling. Smiling too wide. Too sharp. And the closer she got, the more I could smell it. Burnt hair. Old perfume. And something rotten like wet soil after digging too deep. What have you done? I asked, my voice cracking. She didn't stop. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. I ran to the bedroom, slammed the door, flipped on every light. And when I looked up, she was already inside. Standing in the mirror. But not reflecting the room. Behind her were others. Dozens. All wearing her face. All in different bodies. Young. Old. Some missing limbs. Some missing skin. She spoke again. The book worked. I moved through the veil. But it's not what I thought. It's hollow. It's a place made of screams. And I can't get out unless someone takes my place. She reached out. But it wasn't just her hand. It was all of them. Arms stretched from the mirror. Fingers cracking. Nails splintering. Dozens of voices whispering one word. Switch. I grabbed the mirror, smashed it against the wall. Glass exploded like frozen fire. But when I looked back, she was still standing. Still whole. Smiling. It's not the mirror that holds us, she said. It's you. I blacked out. When I came to, the room was clean. No broken glass. No blood. Just the grimoire, open to a new page. And a drawing of me. Lying in a bed. Eyes open. Surrounded by reflections that weren't mine. I tried to leave town the next morning. Packed a bag. Got in the car. But every road led back. Every street sign changed behind me. And every radio station played the same voice. Hers. Whispering lyrics from Gypsy. Like a lullaby, for the damned. You see your gypsy. Some people say ghosts don't hunt. They linger. They whisper. They wait. But those people have never been hunted. It started with the crows. Hundreds of them. Lining the power lines like sentinels. All facing my house. They didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched. And every morning, one was dead on my porch. Beak open. Neck broken. Always pointing north. I started hearing things in the vents. Whispers at first just beneath the edge of thought. Then scratching. Clawing. And once, a single knock. Like something saying, I'm here. The grimoire kept changing. New pages appeared. Some written in my handwriting, though I never picked up a pen. One page read, "Run, Tom. But not too far. We like the chase." The phone would ring at 3:03 a.m. Every night. Always silent on the other end. Until one night. I heard breathing. Then a voice. Low. Raspy. Almost amused. Do you remember their names? The next morning, I found their photos taped to the mirror. The girl from the lake. The librarian. The flower delivery man. My cousin Ben. All of them, eyes scratched out. The streets began to shift. No matter which way I turned, I ended up back at my house. Even the GPS spun in place, lost in a loop. Street signs rearranged themselves. Neighbors I'd known for years, looked at me like a stranger. One even whispered, "Why'd you bring her here?" That night, I tried sleeping in the basement. But they followed me. First the smell like damp soil and copper. Then the flickering lights. Then, footsteps. Not walking. Crawling. I hid in the corner, clutching the journal to my chest. My fingers bled from gripping it too tightly. A hand reached out from the shadows. Pale. Long-fingered. Wrong. It stopped inches from my face, and waited. For what, I don't know. In the corner of the room, a voice hissed. One of us has to go back. And the book chooses. I ran. Out of the house. Through the woods. Down the highway. But they were already there. Waiting. Some on rooftops. Some behind mailboxes. Some pretending to be people I once loved. They smiled with Natalie's mouth. Looked at me with green eyes that no longer blinked. And whispered the same word. Switch. Then I realized. I wasn't being chased. I was being circled. Herded. Pushed toward something. The mortuary. It stood ahead, lit only by candlelight. The front door was open. And inside, the grimoire sat alone on a table. The candles around it burned upside down. The flames pulling down instead of rising. And next to the book, was a mirror. Covered by a black veil. I knew what it was. It was the gateway. The one Natalie opened. The one someone now had to close. I stepped inside. The air was thick. Still. Watching. I placed the book on the altar. Opened it to the last page. And written there, In blood not mine, was a single sentence. Kill the body. Seal the soul. Become the key. Sound of footsteps circling. A whisper, welcome home. I always thought love would save me. But I was wrong. Love isn't what saves you in the end. It's what makes you hesitate when you should run. The mortuary was silent. No wind. No clocks. No breath. Just the book. The veil. And the mirror. Asterisk. I stepped closer. The air was thick. Not heavy, aware. Like the room was holding its breath. Then I heard it. Behind me. Bare feet on tile. Slow. Deliberate. Like something, deciding if it should speak. I turned around. She was there. Not the old woman anymore. Not the beast from the mirror. Just Natalie. Hair falling around her shoulders. Eyes glowing green. And that same crooked smile I once thought meant home. It's almost over, she whispered. Just one more step. She walked toward me, arms outstretched like a child asking for comfort. But her shadow twisted. Not behind her, beneath her. It stretched across the floor like something alive. Its mouth open wide. Hungry. She wrapped her arms around me. Her touch was warm. Too warm. Like something boiling under her skin. And then, her voice changed. Lower. Broken. Kill me now, Tom. Before I kill you. Her grip tightened. Bones in my ribs cracked. Her nails dug into my spine. Her breath in my ear wasn't hers, it smelled of rot and grave dust. I pushed, screamed, begged. She held tighter. Do it, she hissed. You love me. That's why you have to. My hand found the ceremonial blade, the one from the ritual. Still coated with old blood. Maybe hers. Maybe someone else's. I raised it, hesitated. Her eyes looked into mine. Still green. Still hers. But everything behind them was gone. Please, she whispered. I can't hold them back anymore. The mirror behind her cracked. 7 fractures. 7 souls. All screaming her name. I plunged the blade into her chest. She gasped. Then smiled. Thank you, she said. Now you get to choose. Her body collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. But her shadow remained. Standing. Waiting. The veil fell from the mirror. My reflection blinked. I didn't. The book opened itself. And on the final page a new drawing appeared. Of me. Standing alone in the mortuary. Smiling. But behind me. Natalie's face, in the mirror. Still smiling too. A heartbeat slows. A final whisper, you never left. We write to remember. But she wrote to control. Every line she scribbled wasn't just memory. It was command. I found the notebook the next morning. Right where I knew it would be. On my nightstand. Closed. But warm to the touch. Like it had just been breathing. I hadn't touched it in days. But it had changed. The cover cracked and pulsing like old skin. The pages thicker, heavier. And when I opened it, I saw my name. Written on every page. Not scribbled. Not repeated. Narrated. Every word I'd said to the police. Every step I'd taken in the woods. Every breath I held in the dark. All there. In perfect detail. Before they ever happened. It wasn't a journal. It was a script. She had written it all. Even this. My final thoughts. This very sentence. The illusion of choice. A lie printed in black ink. There was one final chapter. Dated November 1st, 1987. The last line read: Tom stares into the notebook, and understands that he was never the narrator, only the character. I dropped the book. Tried to run. But the house didn't let me. The walls bent. The doors looped. And everywhere I turned mirrors. Not showing me. Showing her. In different forms. Wearing my face. Writing my future. One page at a time. The final mirror was black. And in the center, a hole. Not a crack. Not a fracture. A tear. In space. In reason. In me. I leaned in. And saw myself, sitting in a police station. Holding a black dress. Eyes hollow. Mouth whispering a story I thought I was telling for the first time. But now I know. It was written long before I ever spoke it. By her hand. With my blood. The notebook flipped itself shut. And burned. Without flame. Without smoke. Just, gone. Erased. Like I never existed. Soft footsteps. Police station ambience. A voice fades in. Hey, son, you alright? A chair creaks. A breath is drawn. Her name was Natalie, I whisper. And what I'm about to tell you, you won't believe. Obsession always writes the ending. End.